This is one of the books that got me back into reading last year, Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong. This is a dark academia slash fantasy novel with a really unique magic system, and it follows the two main characters, Siona, who becomes the first woman to join the High Magistry, and Thomil, who is one of the last remaining members of his people, the Kaldonai. M.L. Wong uses this story to explore themes like colonialism, misogyny, and racism, the way those systems shape the world the characters live in. And it's truly a mirror of the world that we live in. The characters discover a secret, and they are forced to confront the truth about the society that they live in. And that process of realizing that what you've been taught may not actually be the truth or the whole truth about the world around you is so relatable. Another element that makes this book so great for people getting back into reading is the pacing. As a standalone novel, it moves quickly, stays focused, and keeps you engaged without feeling overwhelmed. By the end, there's a real sense of resolution. All of these elements make Blood Over Brighthaven a great book to pick up if you're trying to get into reading or get back into reading. So with that, let's start from the beginning and read the opening pages together. Chapter 1, A Field of Flowers. Thomil had taken the long way back from scouting. Against his better judgment, he let down his wolfskin hood and welcomed the wind's needles as he pressed through the howling dark. Thomil's gods were in this cold, as they were in the snow, and the crocus stem promise of color fast asleep beneath the breeze. Thomil's gods were in this cold, as they were in the snow, and the crocus stem promise of color fast asleep beneath the freeze. If this was the last time they ever wrapped their arms around him, he wanted to feel it. What was left of Thomil's tribe waited in a huddle at the edge of Lake Turan. Massed in the dark, the Kaldonai were alarmingly small against the expanse of ice. Of the several scouts who had peeled from the group to look out for dire wolves, snow lions, and rival tribes, Thomil was the last to rejoin the clan, his return bringing their number to 40. 40 people left of a nation that had once numbered in the tens of thousands. No pursuers, Bayern said as Thomil passed him. It wasn't a question. The lead hunter inferred everything he needed from Thomil's body language. With life ever dwindling across the plains of the Quen, scouting for danger had come to feel more like a formality than a necessary precaution. It had been 6 months since the Kaldonai had encountered another clan, and years since Thomil had seen a dire wolf. The most prolific killer on these plains didn't stalk on earthly feet, and the best scout in the Quen could never sense it coming. Join your family, Bayern nodded to where Maeva and Aras leaned into each other in the dark. And put your hood up, fool. Yes, uncle. Thomil smiled and drew his hood over his numb ears, trying not to think that this might be the last time Bayern ever snapped at him. Maeva was quiet as Thomil slipped into a crouch at her side. Thomil had been taller than his older sister for half a decade now, but to him she would always be a shelter, a hearth light when all other love had gone from the world. She met his eyes, then turned to the glow beyond the lake, inviting him to follow her gaze and share her hope. Everything about the country on the far shore was alien. The buildings taller than any tree, the spires piercing the sky like teeth, the boom and whir of machinery. The city of Tehran would never be home, but it was a chance at survival. Magical shielding glittered around the metal metropolis, forming a dome that stretched from the sun-eating mountain range in the west to the lower barrows in the east. The bright work of sorcery protected those inside from winter and blight, everything that had driven the Kaldonai to the brink of extinction. Are you ready? Aras asked, because that was the kind of inane question he liked to ask. No, Thomil tried not to sound exasperated with his sister's husband, but really, how ready could a person ever be for near certain death? And if not death, then the enormity of the unknown. The plains of the Quen were the only mother Thomil had ever known. Brutal, but comprehensible, if one had the stillness to listen and learn her mysteries. Even as he beheld the city across the lake, his mind couldn't accept the idea that safety could lie within the incomprehensible sorcery on the other side of that barrier. Maeva reached over and squeezed Thomil's hand, her grip as reassuring as it had been when they were children and he came crying to her with nightmares of wolves with many mouths. He wanted to slip his deerskin mitten off and grasp her hand in earnest, in case this was the last time. But there was a silent agreement among the Kaldonai not to say goodbye. They had to keep believing, however irrationally, that they would all live to see the sunrise. Right away, at least for me, I was instantly gripped and interested in what's happening to Thomil. The writing is clear, but there's also a sense that something deeper is happening beneath the surface. You hear about this mysterious blight, but there's really no explanation to what that actually is, but you know it's more deadly than any of the animals around. And that's part of what makes this book so engaging. It drops you into Thomil's story in the middle of a very dangerous situation. And as the story continues, these early details become more important as we follow Thomil's journey into Tehran, and Siona is introduced. If you're looking for a book that's engaging, thought-provoking, and still accessible, this is definitely one to consider. If you're trying to build a reading habit, tell me what kind of books you're interested in, because I'll be introducing more in this series and would love to know what you'd like to hear more about. If you're interested in checking this book out, I highly recommend utilizing your public library, and if you're interested in purchasing this book, I'd be eternally grateful if you check out my shop on bookshop.org. There's a link to this book in the description below, and it's a great way to not only support my content, but also independent bookstores. Thanks for watching.